we must be able to distinguish between natural revelation or general revelation and natural theology. Okay, they're not the same. Okay, for those uninitiated in these kind of theological topics, they're not the same. So natural revelation, and I like to put it this way: natural revelation is what God does, right? It's his act of revealing himself through the created order. Okay, whereas natural theology, right, is a human activity, right? It's the attempt to reason from natural revelation to conclusions about God's existence or attributes, okay, etc. Okay, now, while natural theology is a valuable exercise, at least from my perspective, when conducted under the authority of Scripture, I do not attempt to interpret nature independent of the special revelation. Okay, natural theology, and I guess the critique that presuppositionalists have with natural theology as it is traditionally and classically manifested is that it is often undertaken autonomously. Okay, it's undertaken in a fashion that assumes that human reason can rightly interpret general revelation. Here's the key part: apart from special revelation. And here lies the tension that we as presuppositionalists we need to address. I think it's an important point. Now, a critical point to understand is the distinction between what is this is important: what is objectively revealed by God and how it is subjectively received by human beings. Okay. General revelation is clear, it's consistent, and it's sufficient to render all people unapologetus, as Romans 1, chapter 1 says, without excuse for their rejection of God. However, the problem is not with the content of God's revelation, but with the recipient. Okay? Human beings made in the image of God possess an innate knowledge of him. Okay, I believe that the knowledge of God is not something merely, it's not an eyeball looking and seeing concluding, although it is true that the heavens declare the glory of God, but man also has an innate knowledge within him. Okay, so that even if you were to pluck the eyes out of a man so that he couldn't see the heavens and see that they declare the glory of God, internally, in light of the fact that man is made in the imago Dei, the image of God, he still has a knowledge of his creator. Okay, and so this innate knowledge of God, this knowledge is woven into the fabric of man's being, right? It's not something derived merely by external sources, nor is it dependent upon necessarily special revelation for its existence. Paul writes in Romans 1:19, what can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them, right? Every person, by virtue of being an image bearer of God, in some profound sense, knows God, but suppresses the truth, right? And so this innate knowledge, and while it's true that all men have a knowledge of God innately, this knowledge doesn't result in proper worship or obedience to God, right? Because of humanity's sinful nature, right? We believe that after Adam sinned, his progeny is impacted by that, such that we are born with a natural inclination towards sin. We are at enmity with God. We are by nature children of wrath, right? And then Paul continues in Romans chapter 1, verses 21 through 23, explaining that although people know God, they what? They suppress the truth in unrighteousness and exchange the glory of the immortal God for images. And so sin corrupts the human mind and distorts the interpretation of general revelation. And so what is objectively clear in creation becomes subjectively misinterpreted, twisted, and even denied by fallen humanity. Okay? So these are kind of important distinctions to keep in mind. This is what we call, when we talk about the effects of sin upon the mind, what we call the noetic effects of sin. All right? And the noetic effects of sin impacts how we interpret nature. Okay? Because we are at enmity with God, we are by nature children of wrath. We are not going to willfully interpret nature in such a way that gives honor to the one that created it all. Okay?